You think you know Germany, the land of order, philosophy, and modern precision. But beneath the surface lies a world older, more darker, filled with ancient gods, secret societies, whispering stones, and hidden rituals. Let's explore occult Germany here on Things Visible and Invisible. Christopher McIntosh is a British-born historian and writer specialising in the esoteric traditions of the West. He has written many books on occultism, mysticism, secret societies and spiritual history, including Occult Germany, Old Gods, Mystics and Magicians. And he joins me down the line from his home in Germany. Christopher, welcome to Things Visible and Invisible.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Pleasure to be on the show.
I was fascinated when I came across your book, Christopher, and the only problem I can foresee is I'm not quite sure where to start. Germany as a country is relatively recent, but as a people goes back to the mists of time. Where shall we start on this guide to old gods, mystics and magicians?
Well, the natural starting point, I think, would be the defeat of the Roman legions who were trying to invade Germany in the year 9 AD, when the legions were defeated by the Germanic chieftain Arminius. And I would say this is the point really when the sort of the nucleus of Germany was born.
Right.
The Germany that we know today.
And just to speed through history a little bit on this, Christopher, I mean, the Germanic tribes then, they trashed what was left of the Roman Empire by the 3rd or 4th century. Germany as a nation then sort of moves around. I mean, there's obviously a Germanic tribes, but as a people seems rather indistinct. I mean, is the Holy Roman Emperor the moment when Germany starts to coalesce around a single figure?
Yes, that happened in the year 800 when Charlemagne, Charles the Great, united Germany and was made Holy Roman Emperor by the Pope. But even after that, Germany basically continued to be a patchwork of many different entities, kingdoms, dukedoms, entities of one kind or another, many entities, and it really stayed that way until the beginning of the 19th century, when Napoleon invaded Germany, and then it was finally reunited in the 1870s under Bismarck.
That's right.
So it was Bismarck really who created the Germany that we know today.
Now, in that brief run through German history, certainly by the Holy Roman Emperor and beyond, Germany is very much a Christian country, and then is obviously the epicenter for the Reformation and all that flowed from that. Your thesis, though, Christopher, talks of a sort of a different Germany. Almost like a secret Germany or a German underground stream, if you like. Is that a fair description of what you're unearthing here?
Yes, I think it's a fair description. The old gods really never completely died out, and the old pagan ways were retained, although the country basically became Christian. The old ways were retained in all sorts of different ways, in folk customs, legends, and so on. and but it wasn't really until the 19th century, the end towards the end of the 19th century, when you began to get a revival of paganism, and this basically continued until the Nazi period, when these pagan movements were suppressed, and especially after the war.
Yes.
And so it took some time after the war for a pagan revival to get going again, and so the situation today is that there are quite a number of neo-pagan groups that are active in Germany. So that's where we are now.
Would you say, though, in that sort of from the late 19th century through the 20th century until today, is Germany any different from the rest of Europe? As you know, there was a kind of occult revival of various sorts in Western Europe, some of it coming from India and elsewhere, by the end of the 19th century. I mean, was Germany, in a way, how did the occult, or this kind of alternative way of believing, how did it manifest itself in Germany different from, say, what was happening here in Britain or in the United States?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. Are you talking about the present day, or?
No. Okay, let me ask it again, Christopher. What I'm asking about is the kind of Madame Blavatskys of the 19th century and the various other a la mode occultisms of the 19th century. How different? What was different about Germany compared to, say, what was happening in Britain? Is that okay?
Well, let me just say something about German spirituality, because one thing that I bring out in the book is that one of the characteristics of German thought and German spirituality is the ability to combine the spiritual with the material, and you see this throughout German history and throughout German culture. When you think of, for example, the great German mystics like the famous abbess and Christian mystic Hildegard of Bingen, who was not only a mystic and a visionary, but she was also a very practical woman.
Yes.
Who was a healer and a herbalist, and very, very, very active in very, very practical, and other people like were going right up, well, to Paracelsus, the great alchemist Paracelsus, who was both an alchemist and a theologian and a kind of mystic. And going right up to more recent times with a figure like Rudolf Steiner, founder of anthroposophy, who was, again, a great mystic and visionary, but also a highly practical person. When you think of all the things that he created, like his biodynamic agriculture, the Waldorf schools, the eurythmic dance method, the homeopathic medicines that he produced, and all of that. So again, he's typical of this combination. So I would say, in answer to your question, that's one of the things where Germany stands out from other countries in this sort of esoteric occult area.
Was there a kind of politicization of the occult? I mean, it's been well documented, the Third Reich and elements of it that had interest in the occult. Was this again a sort of German characteristic where the national spirit mingled with other spirits, that politics and religion seemed to mesh in a way?
I think really only to any great extent. in the period leading up to the Third Reich.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of misconception about the Third Reich, because the people who were into the sort of notion of the kind of sort of mystical destiny of the German people, who were into the Nordic mythology and so on, they placed a lot of hope in the Nazi movement, but they were very disappointed, because when the Nazis actually came to power, they suppressed those movements, and a lot of their followers ended up in concentration camps or were killed. But still, there's still today a tendency to associate those currents with National Socialism.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons that after the war, the intellectual and cultural establishment in Germany tended to reject those currents.
And and I'm wondering I mean, are we talking here, Christopher, about a sort of Neo-Pagan revival? I mean, are these people reviving the sort of Norse gods of ancient times, or the sort of Wagnerian gods type thing, or is this were these sort of newer ideas about mysticism, about occultism?
You're looking at a spectrum of many different movements and tendencies, and there are people who are reviving the old Nordic gods and so on, but they often overlap with people who are following, for example, the neo-witchcraft movement, Wicca as it's called, which was founded by an Englishman, Gerald Gardner, and they also overlap with various sort of ritual magic activities, and so there's a whole spectrum.
So, I mean, in some ways, Germany has been influenced by other cultures and the cultures around them, the other European cultures and beyond. Would you say that this sort of the mysticism of Germany, the occultism of Germany that you've been writing about, has it influenced other cultures? I mean, do we see it playing out in the Anglosphere, for example?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, I think the answer is yes. If you look at the alchemical tradition, for example, now, and the Rosicrucian tradition, because the Rosicrucian movement really came out of Germany.
Yes.
And that has had an enormous influence worldwide, because it basically started in Germany in the early 17th century, and it was based on I think a kind of myth, a mythical story about a man called Christian Rosenkreuz, who founded this Rosicrucian Brotherhood. And then what happened was that people started to imitate it, and there were all kinds of attempts to start up different Rosicrucian movements, and there was a whole Rosicrucian diaspora which spread to Britain, Scandinavia, France, the United States, and many other countries. So you have today all kinds of Rosicrucian groups calling themselves Rosicrucian and following the Rosicrucian idea. So this all came out of Germany, and you could say the same thing about alchemy, because alchemy was particularly strong in Germany, and it's survived in Germany long after it had been superseded elsewhere by what we call modern chemistry. And out of alchemy came, well, for example, homeopathic medicine, which again is something that is practiced worldwide. And yeah, so that's a couple of examples of things that came out of Germany that have had a very widespread influence.
Now, your book's title, Christopher, intriguingly talks about old gods, mystics, and magicians. Let's start with the magicians. Who would you line up in that galaxy of magicians coming from Germany?
Well, there's the legendary magician Faust, Johann Faust, who is he's probably vaguely based on a real figure, but he's turned into a mythological figure, and he appears, for example, in Goethe's famous play Faust, and also in the play by Marlowe. So he's an important sort of figure in the literature and mythology of magic. But there were a number of quite important figures in that area who started up around the late 19th and early 20th century, and who were practicing something similar to the magic of the English order called the Golden Dawn, which was active in the late 19th century. There were groups in Germany who were doing something very similar. There's one, for example, called the Fraternitas Saturni, the Brotherhood of Saturn, and there was quite a lot of coming and going between these groups and groups in other countries. And then you had a figure like the dance pioneer Laban, who was a kind of Rosicrucian, and he invented a kind of dance system where you move about within Platonic solids. So dance for him was a kind of means of transcendence. So there was a lot going on in Germany, especially around that period of the first few decades of the 20th century.
So that's the magicians, Christopher. What about the mystics? You mentioned Rudolf Steiner. Obviously, he'd probably fit into that category. There's been a few. I mean, you could probably say that there were some rather dark mystics in Nazi Germany, people like Himmler and the people that were around him, Otto Rahn and people like that. Who else would you line up as one of the mystics?
Well, there's one person I could mention, the writer Gustav Meyrink.
Yes,
Who was he was actually born in Vienna, grew up partly in Hamburg, but he spent a large part of his life in Prague, because Prague at that time was basically a dual city, Czech and German. And so he spent the formative years of his youth in Prague. And he wrote a series of remarkable novels, occult novels, the most famous of which is The Golem.
Yes.
Which became a bestseller. And it deals with the legend of the Golem, who was a humanoid created by the Jewish community in Prague, basically to protect them against their enemies among the Christian community. Meyrink sets his novel in the 20th century, when he describes a situation where the ghetto is haunted by this figure of the golem. But it's also a novel about initiation, and all of his novels really are novels about spiritual initiation and spiritual development and spiritual quest. So he's a very important figure, very influential figure in terms of spirituality and esoteric ideas.
Well, just on that, Christopher, because you've mentioned Der Golem, as it was called. Obviously, that was turned into a film by the UFA studios in Berlin. And it's been well documented that the cinema of the Weimar Republic was saturated in occult themes. We have famous films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari or Nosferatu, or even Faust. Endless. Do you see that sort of cinematic world that was emerging in 1920s Germany? Do you see that as part of this kind of movement that you've been documenting?
Well, which movement do you mean?
Well, the whole sort of occult revival from the late 19th century into the early 20th century in Germany.
Yeah. I think it overlapped with the what was going on in the cinema with the expressionist films like Caligari and the one you mentioned about the golem.
Yeah. So I guess I'm wondering how mainstream some of these ideas, some of these personalities. I mean, you mentioned that Der Golem was a bestseller. I mean, was there an appetite for this kind of mysticism, this kind of Neo-Paganism that was emerging in Germany in the early 20th century?
Yeah, I think there was, yes, because the First World War was really a great crisis for Germany, because you see, when the new German Empire was founded under Bismarck, Germany was on the up and up. It was growing as a great industrial power, and it was just on the point it was on the sort of high point of its development, when suddenly it was cut off by the First World War.
Yes.
And the country was devastated. And in that situation, people started looking for other sources of meaning. So that was the context in which many of these spiritual movements developed, like anthroposophy, for example, and the people who turned to theosophy, and also these neo-pagan movements. So that was the context.
So
then again, it was all cut off by the Second World War, and then they had to start all over again after the Second World War.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that, Christopher. Post-World War II, Germany's in a reconstruction phase, economically, politically, socially, by the sounds of things, spiritually as well.
Yeah, well, as I say in the book, well, I first went to Germany in the early 1960s, or early 1960s, around 1960, and when Germany had just got into its so-called economic miracle, and once again the country was prosperous, and people simply wanted to enjoy peace and prosperity. So as long as there was beer in the refrigerator and feel-good films on television, and people could afford to buy Volkswagen cars, then they were happy.
Yeah.
And so that was a period when not a great deal was happening spiritually. But eventually people get tired of those things and start to look again for spiritual meaning. So that's I think where we are today.
And where would you say we're headed, Christopher? You're living in Germany. You've been in Germany and in and around Germany for quite some time. What's your sense of the future? I mean, is it a country which is becoming more spiritual? And if so, what type of spirit is it looking towards?
It's a good question. I think it's very rather divided and rather lacking in orientation. And I think it's very hard to say which way it's going to go. Yeah, well, that's really all I can say.
Okay.
I don't think one can speak of any kind of general movement.
Yes.
Except to say that the intellectual and cultural establishment in Germany is still rather hostile to esoteric things. I'm not talking about the general public, because there's quite a bit of interest in the general public, among the general public. But as far as the establishment goes, they are rather arm's length about these areas.
Well, you've alluded to that before in German history. Is this a kind of recurring theme in German history, that the establishment don't want anything to do with this type of spirituality?
Well, I think it's a more recent phenomenon.
Right. Okay. Well, it's probably a bit of an unfair question, Christopher. You're a historian, not an astrologer, to ask you what's going to happen in the future. But you've certainly documented what has been happening in the past. So tell people where they can find out more about you and where they can pick up a copy of your Occult Germany, Old Gods, Mystics and Magicians.
Well, I have a website. The address is www.ozgard.net. They can get up Occult Germany from any of the book outlets on the internet, like Amazon.
Yes.
And I have quite a number of other books on the market, which they can find out about if they go to. They're all listed on Amazon.
Okay, well, they can certainly find you, and it's been fascinating talking with you. Christopher, for now, thank you so much for coming on Things Visible and Invisible.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Things Visible and Invisible. We're dedicated to uncovering phenomena that challenge our understanding of reality, from ancient enigmas and paranormal encounters to scientific anomalies and forgotten histories. If you enjoyed this journey into the mysterious and unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the notification bell to stay updated on future explorations. Have a personal experience or story that aligns with our investigations? We'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at tvi.show and reach out through our contact form. While we can't feature every submission, we review them all, and your story might be featured in an upcoming episode. To support our continued investigations, please consider becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member. Your contributions make these explorations possible and give you access to exclusive content, early releases, and monthly behind-the-scenes discussions with our team. Don't forget to check out our merch store. We've got everything from TVI branded t-shirts and hoodies to stickers and coffee mugs, perfect for showing your support while keeping the mysteries close. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time as we continue to explore the things visible and invisible.